I'd say that fintech is predicated on an API ecosystem, an embedded finance system. It's really about integrations and collaboration in order to actually get these companies going.
That was Phill Rosen from MoneyLion, who are leveraging technology to empower millions of hardworking Americans to take control of their finances and achieve their life goals. But I want to dig a lot deeper than that today, because today's conversation is going to be a deep dive into the evolving landscape of fintech, a sector that's disrupting traditional financial systems, empowering millions to take control of their financial futures. And Phill Rosen is a key player in this transformation, and he's going to offer us an insider's perspective on the embedded finance market, what that means, where it's heading, his journey into fintech. And also, I think as we explore the convergence of marketplaces, open banking and APIs, and the increasingly vital role of fintech data and AI, I hope that this discussion will provide a comprehensive look into how technology is not only reshaping, but truly democratizing the financial services industry. So whether you are an entrepreneur, a business leader, an investor, or simply someone curious about the future of finance, today's dialogue is geared to offer both a panoramic and granular insights into the topics. But enough from me. Let's peel back the complexities of fintech and explore what lies ahead. And to do that, I need to ask you to buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to New York, where Phill is waiting to join us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi. So thanks for having me. My name is Phill Rosen. I'm the global CTO of MoneyLion, and I also run a business unit within MoneyLion, which is called Engine Web Services, Engine by MoneyLion. I've been working in New York tech startups most of my career, basically since I was 19. And, I've been working in fintech since roughly 2012, 2013.
Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. And every day I try and demyst a latest technology or maybe even a buzzword that people are talking about. And the concept of embedded finance has been gaining momentum recently. So can you tell me a little bit more about what it is and what are the driving factors behind this demand and how customizable experiences will inevitably shape its future?
Yeah. So I think the notion is really oriented in sort of some bigger concept around unbundling, right? They say the two big ways to make money in business is either bundle things or unbundle them. Historically, banking has been a set of bundled services offered by large institutions like banks, and they would be the principal delivery mechanism for financial services. And that's sort of a little weird if you think about what banks are selling, right? Financial services are tools. They're not really products themselves are aspirational. You might take a loan to get a car or buy a house, but you want the car or the house. You might, be getting a credit card, but again, it's so that you can do everyday purchases, right? They're tools. And tools are things that are often best put where they're needed most, as opposed to sort of being bundled up in sort of a tight little walled garden. So embedded finance is really about taking those tools and functions and capabilities and distributing them such that they sit and live where they're actually needed most. So taking each little piece of the bank or each little piece of any financial service company and pulling those out so they can be offered directly within the experiences where they're going to be needed most. When we talk about embedded finance, that's often historically been considered companies like that are sort of in the BaaS, banking as a service category, where maybe you are taking something and then letting it be white labeled so it can be offered by a merchant or it can be offered by a service provider. But it's increasingly also becoming about embedding marketplaces that allows those banks to actually put their brand outside of footprint and sit natively within somebody else's consumer experience.
So connect for yourselves at MoneyLion. It's also been a period of acquisition and transformation, because before hopping on the call to talk with you about this today, I was reading about the recent acquisition of Even Financial and its transformation into Engine by MoneyLion. So what synergies or new capabilities have been unlocked through this process? It feels like there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, well, so, I'm the founder of Even, right? And CEO of Even. And what we built at Even was really a platform that would allow the embedding of marketplaces anywhere. That means that we can go and put something like a kayak or a lending tree-like experience inside any other business's application or mobile app or inside a call center, and allow those companies to connect their consumers directly into the financial service products the consumer would need. That initially sounds like advertising, but it's actually much more deep than that, because at even now Engine, we actually were directly integrated into the underwriting and onboarding systems of the financial institutions who are looking to distribute their products. So it created a very tight experience for consumers where they would only see products that they were actually approved for, and then using all sorts of machine learning and data, only the ones that were actually the best fit for what their need was. It was a pretty cool business, and it drove some really big scale within the US personal loan space. But one of the things that we had an issue with was launching additional financial service verticals over time. It was hard for us in our position as basically a B2C company to launch a new product without actually owning a consumer brand ourselves, because it meant that you had a very expensive chicken and an egg problem where you needed a large volume of consumers to build up the data sets and the flow of consumers to make it worthwhile for financial institutions in that new vertical. And you really don't have a way to do that without a consumer brand. So we've been looking at various ways to solve that problem for a long time. On the other hand, MoneyLion was one of our clients in terms of both embedding a marketplace for us and wanting to distribute products on our platform, and had a strategy which was really differentiated from the rest of sort of the neobanks in the US, in that the goal of MoneyLion wasn't always to actually be the provider of everything that the consumer needed, but rather to actually be an ecosystem of products that would include their others and third parties, but always do the best thing for the consumer, even if it was potentially a competitor. And so that really was a very strong alignment between sort of theses of business, right? They're looking to build a marketplace, connect consumers to the best product, also distribute their product, right? And do it in a way that was really unbiased, which was a real strong philosophical alignment with what the Even product was, and also addressed one of our issues was, how do you actually launch and scale a new vertical without a consumer brand? So that was the genesis of why MoneyLion acquired Even. And today we're really pushing forward with that, but it's actually an expanded objective set. Yes, we're doing the thing where, there's marketplaces embedded in MoneyLion, and MoneyLion is acquiring customers through Even, and we're making that a tighter and tighter experience for both us and others. But MoneyLion was really at the forefront of a lot of AI technology for great underwriting on credit and fraud and all sorts of other things that would allow them to do their financial services programmatically at scale. So what we're also doing is taking a lot of that technology and starting to add it to the Engine platform and APIs and offer it as capabilities to other companies for additional embedded financial solutions. So whereas Even was traditionally very much about customer acquisition and product distribution and data to facilitate that, we're now launching a set of products that expand that to include the ability to add fraud capabilities, underwriting capabilities, quality and qualification capabilities to our platform for our B2B clients.
And of course, we are only a few months away from 2024, and we are living in a world of open banking and APIs now. But I'm curious, how are marketplaces, open banking and APIs, how are they actually changing the landscape of fintech from what you're seeing? And are there any challenges and indeed opportunities, of course, that you see arising from this shift?
Well, APIs and embedded finance is really, I think, the core initial enabler of fintech.
Yeah.
If you look around, most companies that started new companies were basically trying to take a small sliver of a bank suite of bank services, as I said, unbundling, and build a company around that. And that's actually really hard to do because these products are often very capital intensive, have a lot of regulatory oversight. So they were all very heavily reliant on basically being able to leverage other people's capabilities via APIs and potentially via marketplaces in order to get going. And then, of course, over time, these companies all wanted to diversify, right? First, they unbundled. Then they start bundling. So they say, okay, I started a credit card fintech. Now I want to be more full service and have a savings account or a cash management account. Again, capital intensive, time consuming, lots of regulation, technically challenging. So you see the emergence of players like Galileo and of course Plaid and Finicity and then engine to do marketplace functionality. So I'd say that fintech is predicated on an API ecosystem, an embedded finance system. It's really about integrations and collaboration in order to actually get these companies going. And I think, we are sort of seeing that cycle from unbundling to bundling play out, where companies are trying to like pull everything back in. SoFi certainly was that path. I think others are trying to model themselves on it. And I expect that to continue, between the two sort of the oscillation between the two approaches.
And despite there being several thousand miles between us and our conversation today, I think we're both seeing the exact same thing in the economic climate. And I'm curious, how do you think the current economic conditions are impacting the fintech and financial services industry? And what kind of adjustments have you had to make at MoneyLion to navigate these uncertainties?
In one area, it's been a big accelerant for us because the credit products that MoneyLion offers, as well as the financial services that MoneyLion offers, really are designed to serve customers who are in need and are feeling financial stress in a very cost-efficient way for them and in a very accessible way for them, and really serve anyone. And, with the period of inflation we've seen, high cost of living, that's been in very high demand. So it's a real accelerant for the business. At the same time, I'd say the industry at large, especially in credit, is facing a problem because of the high cost of capital. That makes it hard to do some of the traditional lending products that have larger loan amounts. And we're really built around, if you look at the volumes, a lot of what was done in loans and student loans was around consolidation or refinance, where they're arbitraging interest rates. Well, with interest rates higher, that's a lot harder. Similar dynamics in mortgages, similar dynamics in zero interest cash balance transfers. And then, of course, there's the other problem, which is it's much harder for the private companies to raise money now. And then add into that mix where, growth isn't necessarily the biggest priority for markets. Now it's profitability, but you still need to maintain growth. So it's, I think, a lot of very good forcing functions in some ways, because it's made companies a lot more mature and a lot more profitable and focus on good long-term sustainable businesses. At the same time, I think it's probably very frustrating for many because a lot of the growth and new ideas is harder to do with the cost of capital so high and with older products not being quite as well positioned as they are now. But that is just going to be a prompt for new things to be introduced. So just like, I think 2008 really was the sort of antecedent to a large set of new fintech companies coming into market. I think this probably will be a similar cycle where it'll really generate a lot of good new ideas that can be brought to market that aren't as dependent on cheap capital.
And here in 2023, data and artificial intelligence continue to play an integral role in fintech, but AI in particular has just exploded. So you must be getting a lot of questions around this, but how are you at MoneyLion leveraging these technologies to offer more personalized and an effective financial experience? Because of a huge talking point right now, isn't it?
Yeah. And the talking point right now is largely centered on Gen AI, right?
Yeah.
Generative AI. But the reality is that, deep learning models have been around for quite a bit before the hype wave on Gen AI came out. And that's actually the basis of a lot of MoneyLion's products, right? If you look at our earned wage access product, this isn't exact, but directionally, the average cash advance there is about $500, right? And we're doing billions of dollars in originations a year. So it is practically impossible to do that without a high degree of automation. And it's also serving a customer who is more sort of has weaker credit than other Americans and is more cash constrained. So it's actually kind of hard to underwrite that profitably. The reason we're able to do that at scale and profitably and also not be heavily and severely impacted by fraud is because our very long history in data science, AI, and machine learning. It is integral to the product and is really the core of making that financially successful product for the company. As we look forward, Gen AI is certainly something that I think is very interesting and that we've been playing with a lot in terms of the obvious things around marketing and content creation, et cetera. But, the bigger points of leverage are really around internal workflows, things that can enable us to reduce the workloads of individuals internally so they can do more high leverage work. That's especially true within programming. It's definitely true for things like analysts. We have tools now which let analysts do more of the high leverage work because people can ask a question in plain English and an AI system is generating SQL for them and executing it so that, someone in sales doesn't have to go take time from the analyst. They can do the higher leverage work. So it is certainly a big efficiency driver and lets us do more with the same number of people.
And for anyone listening that's new to MoneyLion, you do offer a comprehensive suite of products all in one app. But as an ex-IT guy that loves looking under the hood, I suspect that delivering on this is not as easy as a lot of your users would understand. So can you tell me a little bit more about the challenges and advantages of offering this all-in-one financial solution to consumers?
Yeah, so, it is very comprehensive, and it also includes a lot of third-party products as well. If you go in the MoneyLion app, you would see companies, distributing their products via MoneyLion who are ostensibly MoneyLion competitors, or who people would perceive as MoneyLion competitors. We don't see them as such, right? Because we see it as our responsibility to bring the best product to the consumer. So, we work with all of the, great products in the space to do that. When you're talking about such a large number of first-party and third-party products in financial services, which again, can't overemphasize just how hard it is from a regulatory perspective and also how important it is to be reliable because you're dealing with people's money, it's extraordinarily complex. The number of third-party APIs that are brought together to make this work and orchestrate those is insanely large, and now do real-time data pipelines to feed into machine learning and AI models and do that and bring it all together in a great consumer experience. And not just the MoneyLion consumer experience, right? All of these systems are now in engine and are powering hundreds of third-party experiences. And we're doing that with, I think, about 200 or so engineers and probably another 50 or 60 data scientists as well. Under the hood, I could get into the tech details, but it's largely Java and Scala, which, we like statically typed languages because I think they're less prone to user error for backend systems by user error and programmer error. When you're dealing with people's money, you don't want a mistake. And then sort of around that very stable core, we've created a lot of flexibility for people to experiment, because you're only able to do all this well if you can very rapidly experiment, validate, and reject ideas. And so, there is build a very strong, stable core and then create the flexibility to rapidly experiment in a controlled, monitored way.
And I know that financial empowerment is also something very close to your heart. And I was reading that one of MoneyLion's goals is to help empower hardworking Americans to take control of their finances. Yeah. So how does your platform translate that mission into actionable features and benefits for your users? I'd love to bring it all together.
Yeah. So, I think when we talk about empowerment, think about, there's a set of financial services that I think some people take for granted around, the ability to sort of access credit quickly and seamlessly whenever they need it, right? Because maybe there's not money in the checking account at the moment. They might have money elsewhere, but how do you, if you've got money over in the savings account, you don't have your checking account, it's very easy for many of us to pull out a credit card, but that's not true for every American. Yeah. Right. So, building a product like Instacash, which allows people to very rapidly access an alternative source of free credit, right? Because MoneyLion is basically offering Instacash. There's no interest on it at any moment, right? Within the app, hooked into a credit card. And that money is very easy to move between the various services, which could be a managed savings account, right? Or it could be managed investing or active investing or crypto, and then directly integrated to all the other products that we have included from third parties in the system. Making all of that very seamless is sort of the first step. But the second step is to also figure out how to bring that together with guidance so that, it doesn't even feel like guidance. It just feels like, oh, I'm doing this. It's a tool. So it just sort of works. right? And I think that's really the goal, right? About empowering is really to make these financial services a tool, really seamless enablers of people to live their lives every day without having to know everything there is to know about personal finance, because unfortunately financial literacy in the United States is not that great.
Love that. And as you look ahead, I'm curious again, what are some of the latest maybe fintech trends that excite you? Are there any particular areas that you see yourself venturing into in the near future?
Well, I can't talk about what we're going to venture to in the near future because we're public. I don't know where the lines are on that. I mean, from startup land, I'm not very well educated on that, so just shut up on occasion. But what I am excited about is seeing the initial wave of AI solutions sort of go through that maturity phase where they become really high utility tools. It's sort of interesting to me how many applications we're actually seeing of it in the real world. And to contrast that with what we saw in blockchain and crypto, where we saw a very prolonged hype wave, and certainly a lot of tokens and coins come out, but not a lot of sort of real world applications and tools where these technologies were actually leveraged for things other than supporting the value of the coins and tokens themselves. Whereas with the AI, we're immediately seeing a new set of tools emerge that are changing the way people work inside the company and are very rapidly going to start changing the way products work for most companies. And I don't think everyone really knows how that's going to play out yet, because there are so many open questions about how you use these capabilities at scale in a predictable manner that is protecting people's data and is also auditable and explainable. So we have a lot of work to do to make that all happen as an industry. And it's going to be really exciting to see how that plays out. And I think it's going to play out in unexpected ways.
And for anyone listening that would just like to dig a little bit deeper, find out more information and expand on anything we talked about today, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely check out the MoneyLion app. It's a really great application for consumers in terms of being really comprehensive. I'd say most people's financial needs can be served by that app comprehensively. And if they aren't, then odds are we're going to be able to point the person in the right direction to somebody else who does a great job of providing it. It's a really different experience. I don't think you're going to find a company like Wells Fargo saying, hey, you should probably go talk to Chase about this issue. But that's exactly the kind of approach that we're taking at MoneyLion, which is to put the customer first and do the best job we possibly can for them.
Well, again, huge thank you for helping demystify embedded finance, the marketplaces, open banking, APIs, fintech, and also expanding on the demand for embedded finance, where it's heading with these customizable experiences that we're beginning to expect as standard now too. But more than just thank you for sharing all that and your story as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Again, huge thank you to Phill Rosen for sharing his invaluable perspectives on the seismic shifts that's happening at the moment within fintech and financial services. And I think we touched on myriad of dimensions there, from the role of embedded finance, the synergies unlocked by corporate acquisitions, to the intricacies of offering a one-shop financial solution via a single app. And for me, I think it's evident that companies like MoneyLion are standing at the intersection of technology and finance, and in doing so, driving change, making what was once an exclusive domain of private banking accessible to all. And as Phill pointed out, the journey is fraught with challenges, from high capital costs to the complexity of regulatory compliance. But these challenges are also touchstones for innovation that's driving the industry to harness both data and AI for more personalised and efficient solutions. But that's it to today. So everybody, please keep an eye on the trends, stay agile, continue to make informed decisions that help propel you forward. Be curious, ask questions. If you've got any for me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram @NeilCHughes. Let's keep this conversation going. And I'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, clogging up your podcast feed with another guest. Hopefully you'll join me again. But thanks for listening today. And until next time, don't be a stranger.